So if you see this load condition, whenever the load is connected, this current I2 will be close. I2 will be flowing here. This I2 produces flux. This flux is opposite to the main flux. Therefore, the flux is reduced. That means the net flux is phi minus phi 2. The flux is reduced. Because the flux is reduced, the EMF E1 also reduces. When the EMF E1 reduces, V minus E, that means is more. What is V minus E? That means a drop in this. Therefore, current I1 drawn from the supply increases. When the current drawn from the supply increases, then that additional current will be given by I2 dash. That I2 dash is the additional current which is drawn from the supply that will produce a flux phi 2 dash. Let us take it produce a flux phi 2 dash, which is equivalent or the opposite to this opposing flux phi 2. Therefore, phi 2 dash phi 2 equal and opposite. Therefore, the original flux phi will be remain constant. This is the condition under the load. You should clearly understand this point. Therefore, phi 2 dash is equal to phi 2. That means N1 I2 dash is equal to N2 I2. From this I2 dash equal to N2 by N1 into I2, that is I2 by A. So this is the way the additional current supplied from the primary can be written. Okay. So if you go to this slide now, the transformer on no load, assuming voltage drop in the winding, we can observe like this, this transformer. Now we are discussing about a very important part of this load condition. So here the primary is connected to supply, secondary connected to some load. So here, as I said, normally we know the primary current is sum of two currents, I0 and I1, the additional current. We'll discuss that one now in other slides like this. So this is the flux production, this is the leakage flux, this is all we have discussed. Let us see now. So I have one question to you. Have you come across this transformer and loaded condition phasor diagrams in the first year? Hello?
No, sir.
Yeah. Now focus on this clearly. So you see, this is the transformer equivalent circuit with IW, I mu, and E1, E2. This is connected to a load ZL. So here we are taking three different types of loads. One is unity power factor load, lagging power factor load, leading power factor load. So in this picture, I am going to give you all the explanation. Listen carefully. So we know that this I1 is sum of two currents, I0, I2 dash. Therefore, I have written I0 plus I2 dash equal to I1. We know what is this I0. I0 is nothing but IW and I mu. Okay. This I0 is equal to IW and I mu. We are not writing that. This I0 plus I2 dash, which is equal to I1. And we know this flux phi. And we know this E1, E2 90 degrees to phi. And this is V1. Now, what is this V1 is equal to? V1 equal to I1 R1 plus I1 X1 plus the voltage across this. What is the voltage across this? Minus E1. Therefore, already we know this is the E1. So, if you write this opposite side, this is minus E1. Therefore, minus E1 plus I1 R1, because this I1 R1 is parallel to this I1. We have to draw this line parallel to this I1. I1 R1. And for that 90 degrees, I1 X1. So, this is the drop. Therefore, that is equal to V1. We know that. So, this is the condition under unity power factor. That means, what is unity power factor? The current in the secondary side is in phase with the voltage. Here you see, this is the current I2 we are drawing, which is in phase with V2. I2 is in phase with V2. And other side, if you take I2 V2, this is I2. What is the drop? I2 R2. In that 90 degrees, I2 X2. Therefore, V2 plus I2 R2 plus J I2 X2 is equal to E2. We can write like this. So there is an angle between V2 and E2. V2 is not equal to E2. As I said, in the ideal transformer, because there is no drop here, V2 equal to E2 we said. But this is not ideal transformer. This is a practical transformer. That's why V2, E2, there will be some angle difference. That is because of this impedance. So, but the load is here unity power factor load, resistive load. So therefore, there is an angle difference between V2 and E2, E1 and E2 in the same direction because they are produced by flux. This is the angle difference. And here V2 and I2 are in phase because it is a UPF load. And you can observe this V2 plus I2 R2 plus JI2 X2 is equal to E2. So this is the secondary side. Understand this. This is the primary side. This is the secondary side. So we can write E2 is equal to V2 plus I2 Z2. And E2 is equal to, we can write V2 plus what is Z2? I2 into R2 plus JX2. Same way, we can write V1 also. V1 is equal to I1 Z1 minus E1. So if you take the lagging power factor load, where is the difference in the lagging power factor load? This entire part is same. This part is same. The only difference is, here you see V2 is lagging with U2. This current I2 is lagging with V2. That is lagging because this load is inductive load. This I2 is in lagging with V2. That's why I have drawn I2 with some lagging angle. Therefore, in parallel to I2, we'll write I2 R2 and 90 degrees to this I2 X2. So the V2 plus I2 R2 plus I2 X2 is equal to E2. So this is the phasor diagram under loaded condition. Okay. Let us take the phasor diagram of the leading condition. The same. This part is same. Upper portion is same. So here if you observe I0 plus I2 dash equal to I1. Here I0 plus I2 dash equal to I1. Here I0 plus I2 dash equal to I1. This part is same. So if you take V1 and this I2 is leading with V2. This is V2 line. So I2 is leading with V2. Therefore, in the direction of I2, if you draw a line, V2 plus I2 R2 in parallel to this I2 R2, I2 R2 plus 90 degrees to this I2 X2 is equal to E2. So this is the way you can draw the phasor diagram for unity power factor, lagging power factor and leading power factor loads. Okay. So this is the phasor diagram with LPF load, lagging power factor load. That's what we have drawn now. It is we are showing this one separately, where V1 is equal to E1 plus I1 Z1. And this is the phasor diagram with the leading power factor load. That's what we have seen in the previous case. We have shown with maximizing the picture. Now we can draw this phasor diagrams very easily. So let us come to the discussion of the losses in a transformer, because before going to discuss about this voltage regulation and efficiency, first we will see what are the losses, then we will go to efficiency, then we will go to voltage regulation concept. We know what are the losses in the transformer: iron and or core losses, which are divided into hysteresis as eddy current losses, and copper or ohmic losses, and stray losses, dielectric losses. We can divide the losses into 4 categories. So we have seen what is the hysteresis loss in the last class I have discussed. We know because of the magnetic reversals, hysteresis losses will be there. This part I have discussed line to line. And these losses can be minimized by proper selection of the material. So this is the BH curve. This is a magnetic magnetization, demagnetization. So because of these magnetic reversals, hysteresis losses will be there. The BH curve, narrow BH curve has low losses, and the BH curve is wider, losses will be more. That's what you have seen in the first unit itself. So eddy current losses, I have seen this one in the last class also. These are the losses due to the current in the circuit, current flows in the circuit, and these losses can be minimized by lamination. And this is the formula for eddy current loss: Ke Bm square F square T square. We have seen all the nomenclature in the last class itself. So now coming to core or iron losses, that's what pH hysteresis loss can be written like this, and eddy current loss can be written like this, PE. Okay, and both the losses combined together, the core or iron loss. So coming to the copper loss, we can write the copper loss as, already have seen the problem, I1 square R1 and plus I2 square R2. That is equal to, in the equivalent side, I1 square R01 or I2 square R02. Like that, you can write the copper loss. These copper loss are about 90% of the total losses, and remaining losses are very 10% only. Maximum losses are due to this copper loss. That means heating. So copper loss in a transformer, if you see, these losses on the primary side, I1 square R1, secondary square I2 square R2, and we can write this formula like this: I1 square R0 square, I2 square R0 if it refers to primary or secondary side. So hysteresis eddy current loss both depends upon the magnetic properties of materials used. Okay, and use it to construct the core of the transformer. So these losses are fixed and do not depend upon the load current. Very important thing is, these core losses does not depend upon the type of the load, they depend upon the material, they are constant. And core losses of transformer, which is alternatively known as iron loss, can be considered as constant for all range of the load. They does not depend upon the load. So stray loss, occurrence of the stray loss is due to presence of leakage field flux. The percentage of these losses are very small as compared to iron, copper loss. They can be neglected. Generally, we won't talk much about the stray loss. This is because of leakage flux. So dielectric loss. These losses occurs in the insulating material of the transformer, that is in the oil of the transformer, because dielectric oil you are using for cooling purpose and insulating purpose. So this is related to that loss. Therefore, in the solid insulations, and oil gets deteriorated or solid insulation get damaged or its quality decreases. Because of this, the efficiency of the transformer is affected. And these losses are generally we won't consider in the calculation of the efficiency. So summary, if you see core loss and copper loss, it is constant loss. Core loss does not change with the load, proportional to supply voltage and frequency. Already you have seen the relation, PH-PE relation. So copper loss, if you take, it is variable loss called I square R loss, proportional to square of load current, and it is variable, it varies with current, occurs in the winding resistances, it is dissipated as heat. So this is the simple comparison between these two losses. So another important question is, why transformer rating is in kVA? So the simple explanation is kVA, why not in kW? We know kW means VI cos phi. Here we will take only voltage and current, not power factor. So rated output of transformer is kVA, not in kW, because rated output is limited by heat and hence losses. Output is mainly due to losses. This kVA is nothing but output. The two types of losses: core loss, which is proportional to voltage; ohmic loss, which is proportional to current, and unaffected by power factor of the load. Therefore, rating of the transformer is in kVA. Mainly losses decides the output. So therefore, core loss is by voltage, copper loss is by, that means ohmic loss is by current. We will take both V and I. So now we are going to discuss about the transformer efficiency. So after efficiency discussion, we'll go ahead with the regulation. You know what is the efficiency of transformer? Is defined as ratio of output power to the input power. The input and output power are measured in the same unit. The unit is either watts or kilowatts. So efficiency can be written as output power by input power. Here output power is known. Output power by, because kVA, as I said, what is that kVA? If somebody asks, you have to say it is output of a transformer divided by iron loss, output plus iron loss plus copper loss. You can write VI cos phi, output power, divided by VI cos phi plus iron loss plus copper loss. Because in kilowatts, if you want, we will take cos phi. So what are these parameters? Secondary voltage V2, IT is the full load secondary current, cos phi to power factor, PI iron loss, which is nothing but sum of hysteresis and eddy current loss, and PC copper loss, IT square R2. So we can write this output, the efficiency for some percentage of the load also we can calculate. How? Because percentage, X percentage, 50% of the load, 25% of the load, 20% of the load, if you take like that, we can write Nx is equal to, normally current is an important factor. I is 50%, 25%, 75%, full load means 100%. So that's why wherever I is there, it is multiplied by X. Therefore, X into V2I2 cos phi 2 divided by X into V2I2 cos phi 2 plus iron loss, as I said, it is constant irrespective of the load. It is constant. And where, because it is I2 square R2, so that's why you will write X square, I2 square, R2 or RES. Some nomenclature they will take RES, some nomenclature they will take R2. Both are same. So this is the formula for calculation of efficiency at any load. Therefore, maximum efficiency, this is the condition, PE by RES. So how you got, let us see. Condition for maximum efficiency, we can get a small derivation. Copper loss is nothing but X square into PC, where PC is the full load copper loss. If you know the full load copper loss, into X square if you do, you will get the copper loss at any load. So iron loss is constant, maximum efficiency, this copper loss is equal to iron loss. So therefrom you can calculate output kVA corresponding to maximum efficiency. What is that X we can calculate? Percentage of load, PI by PC. So how we got that maximum efficiency equal to X percentage into full load kVA. So maximum efficiency equal to root of PI by PC is X into full load kVA. So like this, if you know iron loss, copper loss, you can calculate that X into the full load kVA. If you multiply, you will get maximum efficiency. That means full load kVA into square root of iron loss by copper loss at full load. It is the formula for maximum efficiency. So how you got this condition for a maximum efficiency? First you write the efficiency formula, VI cos phi by this one, cancel I on numerator and denominator. You will get this PI by R2. This is I2, R2 or I2, RES. So to get the maximum condition, so differentiate that power with respect to efficiency with respect to current. If you differentiate and equal to 0, so then if you see, if you differentiate this one and equal to 0, then here the variable thing is in the denominator. I2 is in the denominator, not in the numerator. This should be maximum or minimum. So in the equation, the numerator is constant, then the transfer efficiency will be maximum if the denominator with respect to I2 is equated to 0. The differentiation of that should be minimum. So therefore, if you differentiate the denominator and equate to 0, you got this condition. That is what? PI is equal to I2 square R. That means iron loss equal to copper loss. So this is the maximum efficiency. We output by output plus iron loss plus copper loss, because both are same. We can write 2 into PA because PC equal to PA. So this is the formula for maximum efficiency. Next, we'll discuss about the all-day efficiency. So what is this all-day efficiency? What is the importance of all-day efficiency? Let us see. The maximum efficiency, if you see, this is the thing we have discussed. Full load VA into power factor VI cos phi divided by VI cos phi plus iron loss plus copper loss. This is the way you can write efficiency. And the total loss we can write iron loss plus copper loss. Copper loss is from X percentage, X square into PC, you can write full load copper loss. So this is the way also you can express the efficiency formula, NX. So power factor is given, kVA is given separately, X is given at any load, we can write like this. So already have derived this condition for the maximum efficiency like this. You will take the denominator I2 and differentiate with respect to denominator with respect to I2 and equate to 0. We got PI is equal to I2 square R02. R02 means the resistance with respect to secondary. We will write. So I2 is equal to PI by R02. We will write. These are the different formulas. Same. X is equal to PI by PC. Maximum efficiency, fraction of the full load kVA at which maximum efficiency occurs. If they say that at 50% load, what is the condition for maximum efficiency? At 100% load, what is the maximum efficiency? Okay. So like that, at any fraction of the load, maximum efficiency condition, you can get what is that X? that is equal to Pi by Pc. These formulas are important in calculations. So output kVA is equal to full load kVA into X. X means square root of Pi by Pc. So it may be noted that the value of kVA at which efficiency is maximum is independent of the power factor of the load. Just now I said there is no point of power factor in any stage here, efficiency calculation. Therefore, power factor independent of the lagging power factor or leading power factor or unity power factor, this efficiency maximum condition will be there. So now let us go ahead with our all day efficiency. So all day efficiency, if you take, because I am taking line to line, I'm not going hurry. All day efficiency means power consumed by the transformer throughout the day. All day efficiency. It is defined as a ratio of the output power to the input power in kilowatt hour or watt hour of the transformer 24 hours. Previously, if you have seen the efficiency when you have observed that we have taken in kilowatts point of view have taken. So here for all day efficiency we will take the output or input in terms of kilowatt hour. Mathematically it is represented as all day efficiency equal to output in kilowatt hour divided by input in kilowatt hour for 24 hours. We'll calculate. Okay. So you know 1 unit is equal to 1 kilowatt hour. In our household purpose also, when you are talking about number of units, this kilowatt hour. All day efficiency of transformer depends upon load cycle. Because we know from morning to next day morning, there are peak loads, light loads, etc. So these load cycle to be considered. So all day efficiency is mainly related to that loads. The load cycle of transformer means the repetition of the load on it for a specific period. Ordinary or commercial efficiency of transformer define ratio of output power to input power. Simply some kilowatts will write. But all day efficiency is considered hour to hour basis. So how the load is varying. So what is the need of this all day efficiency? Some transformer efficiency cannot be judged by simple commercial efficiency on the load, as the load on certain transformer fluctuate throughout the day. Normally, if you take overall output, overall input, that won't serve the purpose. If you know hour to hour how the load is changing, so that is important for calculation of the losses, as well as that gives the clear picture of efficiency of a transformer. For example, distribution transformer, if you take energized for 24 hours, but their delivery very light loads. They deliver very light loads for major portion of the day, and they do not supply rated or full load. And most of the time, the distribution transformer has 50 to 75% load on it. That means if you take the distribution transformer, if you take anywhere nearby our house, etc., they most out of 24 hours peak load is for less time and light load is for more time. So this load is very, very important for calculation of the losses. As we know, there are various losses in the transformer, such as iron loss, copper loss. Iron loss takes place in the core of the transformer. So iron loss or core loss occurs for the whole day. That means I said irrespective of the load, iron or core losses are constant. They will be there throughout the day. What is varying? Copper loss. It depends upon the load. Depends upon the load variation, copper loss varies. The second type of loss is copper loss takes place in the windings. Variable loss. It occurs when the transformers are in loaded condition. Hence, performance of such transformers cannot be judged by commercial or ordinary efficiency. So because variable losses should be considered separately. Efficiency is calculated and judged by all day efficiency, also known as operational efficiency or energy efficiency, because kilowatt hour means energy, which is computed by energy consumed during the 24 hours. So mainly distribution transformers will consider this all day efficiency. So effect of frequency and supply voltage in iron losses, if you take iron loss of transformer includes two types of losses, hysteresis, eddy current loss. So what is this effect, frequency and supply voltage effect on iron loss? If you take, we know V is equal to 4.445 Fn. So this is the 4.445 Bm, and then you can write where area is the area, where this Bm, so Bm is proportional to V by F. So for constant A and N, that means area of cross section and a number of turns, we can write this Bm is equal to V by F, flux density. So as the voltage changes, flux density changes. Both eddy current, hysteresis loss also changes. V changes, phi changes, and both the losses changes. As the voltage increases, flux density in the core increases, iron loss also increases. Coming to the frequency, I'm talking about effect of voltage and frequency on these losses. As frequency increases, what happens? Flux density in the core decreases because they are inversely proportional. But as iron loss is directly proportional to frequency, hence effect of increased frequency is to increase the iron loss. If you increase the frequency, flux decreases, but what will increase? What will increase? Iron loss also increase. That is the effect of the frequency. So if you see this conclusion, conditions, hysteresis loss, eddy current loss, and iron loss, V by F constant, WH is equal to AF, you can write. W is equal to B F square, you can write. Therefore, that means remaining part you can take it as a constant, proportional to F for 1.6, B for 1.6, F. This is almost constant. If you take AF, is BF square, this constant into F square in terms of frequency, sum of these two. In the separation of the iron and core losses, we will come across this discussion. If V by F is not constant, then what happens? We can write the expression like this. So separately, you have to take that voltage factor separately because V is not constant, and sum of these two like this. If voltage constant, frequency is decreased, then what happens? Frequency decreased, hysteresis loss increases, eddy current loss constant. Depends upon this frequency component if you take from this. And therefore, iron loss equal to hysteresis loss for eddy current loss. WH increases, iron loss. WH increases as iron loss increases. So frequency constant, V1 is variable. That means frequency constant, voltage is variable. Then hysteresis loss decreases, eddy current loss decreases, and iron loss decreases. And the effects of this voltage frequency, you can summarize in this table. You can go through one second. So already you have seen these efficiency formulas. Condition for maximum efficiency you have seen. Okay. And if you see this load current versus efficiency, for unity power factor loads, the efficiency is maximum. Okay, VI cos phi. When phi is maximum, output is maximum, therefore efficiency is maximum. More efficiency will get. These curves occupy in the upper place. When the power factor decreases, cos phi decreases, then what happens? These curves occupy in the below the unity power factor curves. Simply we can represent like this. So now we are going to voltage regulation discussion. So till now we have discussed about the construction, operation, no load condition and load condition phasor diagrams, equivalent circuit, problems on that, losses, different types of losses we have discussed, efficiency we have discussed, all-day efficiency we have discussed. Now the very important concept we are discussing is voltage regulation. Once this voltage regulation is over, then we'll go for 3 types of tests. Will join me in the next session. I will finish that. So change in secondary terminal voltage when full load is given. Okay. When full load is given, full load at a given power factor is given, and at rated voltage is thrown off. Is expressed as a percentage of rated terminal voltage. That means it is the definition. What is the change in the secondary terminal voltage when full load at a given power factor or under at rated voltage is thrown off? When the full load is thrown off, what is the change in voltage? That regulation may be positive or negative difference. So the change in secondary terminal voltage from no load to full load is expressed as V2 no load minus V2 full load by V2 full load into 100. So we can write no load voltage minus full load voltage by no load voltage. This is the voltage regulation. So we'll write the secondary voltage as V1 into N2 by N1. If you substitute this V2 value here, V1 into N2 by N1 minus V2 by V1 into N2 by N1. So this is the equivalent circuit, already you know, refers to the primary side. How can you write this R equivalent, X equivalent? So this is the refers to primary side, R equivalent plus JX equivalent. Voltage regulation depends upon the magnitude of the series impedance and the phase angle of the current flowing through the transformer. So both it depends upon X, because the voltage difference is due to the impedance between the windings. The phasor diagrams will determine the effects of these factors of the voltage regulation. Let us see that. Okay. So we can write based on the equivalent circuit, VP by K is equal to Vs plus R equivalent into secondary current, X equivalent into secondary current. So this is the equation you can write from the equivalent circuit. Let us go. The phasor diagram. From the phasor diagrams, we are going to discuss about this voltage regulation formulas. If you see, this phasor diagram is for unity power factor. So V2, I2 are in phase. So from the phasor diagram, V2 plus I2 Z02 refers to secondary is equal to V2 naught. No load volt secondary voltage is equal to secondary voltage V2 plus I2 Z0 is equal to V0. What is this I2 Z02? I2 R02 plus I2 X02. Because this is for unity power factor, because V2 and I2 are in phase, if you observe here. Therefore, from this, we can write the equation I2 is equal to I2 at an angle of 0 and E2 is equal to V2 plus I2 Z02. We can write what is Z02? R02 plus JX02. Therefore, what is E2 or V2 naught? V2 naught or E2 both are same, is equal to V2 plus I2 R02 whole square plus I2 X02 whole square. That is equal to V2 naught. So therefore, voltage regulation equal to V2 naught or E2 both are same in this expression. E2 minus V2 by V2. So this is the way you have to calculate the voltage regulation for unity power factor load. Okay, now the time is just 2 minutes. I will finish this lagging power factor load, go to leading power factor load, and we will discuss very important points in the voltage regulation. Please join me immediately when this ends abruptly. Okay, now. So for the lagging loads, if you take, this is V2, the current is lagging with V2 like this, phi 2. So we can write the I2 like this. Therefore, V2 in parallel to I2, there is I2 R02. So V2 plus I2 R02, 90 degrees to I2 R02 is I2 X02. So this is I2 Z02. Therefore, V2 plus I2 Z02 is equal to V2 naught. Normal formula. What is I2 Z02? I2 R02 plus I2 X02. We can write this I2 R02, these factors like this. If you take, this is the power factor 5, this is also power factor 5. So this horizontal component is I2 R02 cos phi 2. And what is this part? Because you know this is the hypotenuse. If you create a right angle triangle here, if this is phi 2, this is also phi 2. We can go through the triangle angle principles. This is phi 2. Then this opposite length, what is this opposite length? Is equal to I2 X02 sin phi 2. So we can take this length. If you drop this length like this here, if this is I2 X02, this horizontal length, we can write I2 X02 in terms of phi 2. So let us see this picture here. So this is the part. What is this AG? So we can give OAG like this. This AG is nothing but AF, this part, plus FG, this part. So what is this FG? Nothing but this BG. What is this BE? Is nothing but I2 X02 sin phi. Therefore, V2 plus I2 R02 cos phi 2 plus I2 X02 sin phi 2 or sin theta. That is nothing but the voltage drop. And then V2 naught minus E2 is equal to this part. So this is the way you can write the voltage regulation for lagging power factor load. Now the meeting is going to end. I'll stop here and join me immediately. I will continue with the leading power factor load. Thank you.